Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and once again we are doing the Piracy Show. Now, of course, we just got a pillar talk today, and it was, I think, in all honesty, it was a lot of things that we had heard before in bits and pieces. Certainly at CitizenCon, I didn't really find it to be all that groundbreaking. It was, it's nice to see them talking about the systems, and I want to say that these types of videos are the videos that I'm more interested in seeing when we're talking about the development and the process of making Star Citizen into a living, breathing universe. I was very upbeat watching the whole thing. I enjoyed it. But at the same time, you got to browse the YouTube comments, and there was a lot of, oh my god, 2020, this is going to be the year for Star Citizen, this is going to be the year. Is 2020 going to be the year for Star Citizen? Is it going to be the big kind of turning point? That sort of, we've had that slow climb up the hill for so long. Are we finally at that point where we're just going to come over the peak and then we start rolling around in the roller coaster? We're going to start just racing around. Are we at that point where we are just going to, all this momentum we've built up is finally going to break loose, right? I don't know. I feel that, I'm not the relentless optimist of the Star Citizen community. Some of you may remember that years ago when, I think it was back in 2014 or something like that, and people were kind of posting on the forums saying, when Star Citizen's finished in 2016, all these people are going to be eating crow and all this crap on the forums. And when I said, I don't think Star Citizen's going to be done until 2018 at the earliest. And you have to remember the perspective of those times. When I said that, I was told, you don't know anything about game design and you don't know anything about programming. What do you think you know? You're just a hater. You're just a hater of Star Citizen. And it turns out that even the hater's point of view on the timeline of developing Star Citizen was wildly, hilariously over-optimistic. I mean, it in retrospect, it is funny. It is really funny. But at the same time, do I think that getting back to the main point, do I think that we are at that point where we're just going to crest and things are really going to start to heat up? I think that the OCS, the primary version of OCS coming in, is going to be huge. I think that they are going to be able to deliver more content. They certainly talked about the tools and the freedom that this gives them, especially when iterating, when they don't have to, on the dev side, load up the entire server and then kind of hand select what they don't want to load and what they do want to load, and test out different things. Obviously, it's going to help them iterate quicker. There's a lot of tools that they have been developing which seem to be getting closer and closer to completion. Are we going to see all that pan out in a miraculous content explosion in 2020? I don't think so. I think that what we are going to get is we're going to get more content. We are going to get better performance, certainly. That's one of the big things that a lot of us have been running into. And certainly I've talked about it a few times. There are times when you're playing the game and you don't really know if it's a bug or if it's a server-side problem. And they touched on this, how the servers were running so slowly that sometimes doors didn't open for you. And if you watch a lot of my older videos, you may note that there's a lot of times where I run up to a door, the door doesn't open, you see me push the door, and then the door opens and then the door closes. And that happens a lot in my videos because the server just isn't keeping up with what I'm doing, right? That's been a huge problem for Star Citizen. I mean, maybe if we only had Crusader and the moons around it at this point, but we had all the technology that we have now, we would be looking at Star Citizen in a much different light, right? And that's always been kind of one of the things. Is it more content? Is it more content? Is it more content? Or is it improvement? And we've always kind of wrestled with that question. And certainly, the more content seems to have been winning over the last year and a half. and possibly not to the game's benefit. Largely, I mean, long term to the game's benefit, but immediately I don't think that it really did anything to showcase the game in a much more positive way, whereas you could have further maybe developed, the Crusader environment. But you want to showcase a whole solar system, you can't do that with just, one planet and its moons. So I can kind of see it from both sides of that, discussion of that argument. I think that we're going to see things accelerate. We're going to definitely see better things with persistence. We're going to see the possibility that we may keep the money that we earn moving forward, though I would caution anybody who sits there and says, once 3.8 launches, I'm just going to be grinding cash. Hold on just a little bit, because there's probably at least one or two more wipes. And that's me being a wild optimist, before we're at a point where it's just like, no, it's locked down now. This is it going forward. And in fact, I bet you that it's not going to be something that they said, oh yeah, well now, whatever you have now, that's it going forward. I think that before we get to that point, they are going to say, with 4.0 or, 4.1 or whatever, they're going to say from here on out, we're counting it, like everything adds up. So you can, whatever work you do in the universe, you're going to benefit from that work over the long term and not just for the cycle of a patch. We're not there yet, so that's kind of a big thing. So I think we're still going to see a lot of pieces coming together. We're definitely going to see an acceleration in content being delivered. The ship pipeline looks a little strange to me, and many of you have noticed that as well. So are there more flight-ready ships coming? Hopefully. If there are new ships coming, hopefully they're flight-ready. But at the same time, I would still like to reiterate the point that I would prefer to see variants of the existing ships rather than more and more new ships for the time being. I would like to see new ideas and new functions incorporated into existing ships. When we talk about sort of the Mantis and its interdiction module, I would rather have gotten the module than the ship. I would rather have that module and be able to put that module on different vehicles. Sure, that may not be a moneymaker in the game, but I think that it would be to our benefit if we were to kind of draw a little bit inward. And to be honest, if they came out with the new Kovalex, Caterpillar, or it was the Hurston Dynamics Caterpillar and it came out with LTI, you would not hear a peep from me. If they came out with, not a new version of the Constellation, but any of the other existing ships that we've already either pre-purchased or flyable now, if they just made a variant of them to, kind of do the LTI thing again, I would be perfectly okay with if that was for the next year. That's what I would prefer. I think that that's kind of a big stumbling block for them right now, is they're just kind of, they're kind of mortgaging the future to sell ships that they still have not built yet, especially when there are some ships that have been lingering in limbo for so long still. So I would rather kind of see things go that way, but if there are more new ships being brought into the game, I would like to see them as flight ready rather than as a concept. Another thing that I think is something of a misplay, I'll put it that way, was, you remember that, they certainly showed it once again right off the top in the new Pillar Talk, but you remember during CitizenCon when they showed us the Microtech gameplay and different outfits help you retain body heat or keep you cool in certain environments. And there was a real emphasis on this new system, like it's cold outside so you're shivering and you got to get warmed up and all that sort of stuff, and all of it was wonderful and cool. I'm not detracting from that, but I think that it was a misplay in that the community would have benefited far more, and you probably would have gotten more of an audience reaction if you had seen one of the members of that player's team get wounded in that video, and rather than just fall flat and die and have to respawn wherever, Olisar, Area 18, wherever they are, locked to have another player be able to come up and just either use a Medipen on them or just some other type of, quick put together device that revives them. I think that even a tier 0 implementation of medical gameplay would have received such a positive review from the community, because it's not something that hits you with any real immediacy. I mean, of course, with the Cutlass Red coming out, I think it becomes a little bit more pressing, but I would have loved to have seen non-death states in that video. I would love to see that. I wish that that was a thing right now. The ability to just, like, if you're wounded, instead of just dying, you get knocked out, and if you have a friend there, they can come and help you. Now, it's entirely possible that the reason why we're getting some of these things and, not others, it could be related once again to Squadron 42. As we know, Squadron 42 is kind of like, it's kind of like the pin that kind of tethers development right now, and everything has to go around what Squadron 42 needs. And maybe in Squadron 42, if you die, you just die, and so that's not a priority, whereas your reaction to environments that you're in, certainly in a Squadron 42 scenario, may be much more important, so that's why it got priority. That's entirely possible. But at the same time, another misplay that I saw was, well, there's more depth in mining, new mining heads that you can put on mining lasers. Well, that's fantastic for mining, but what about salvagers? What about medical gameplay once again when you have a medical ship coming out? What about data running? What about the dead ships that have professions that just aren't in the game? Certainly mining has come in a tier 0 implementation, but I would like to see salvage get a tier 0 implementation. I'd like to see data running get a tier 0 implementation. I would like to see medical gameplay get a tier 0 implementation. That's my counter argument to that. So, I mean, it's entirely possible that, once again, this is something that's governed by Squadron 42, but the mining, I really don't see that. I feel that that was kind of a misplay to go deeper into mining when salvage and data running are still nowhere to be seen. But of course, I am biased because I do own a Reclaimer and I do own a Herald, so I would like to see those two ships actually be able to do something in the game other than be flashy backgrounds for YouTube videos when they're working and you can actually fly them. That's, those are some of the things that I would like. I think that definitely over 2020, we're going to see an acceleration. We're going to see more content, and we're going to see an improvement in the game's performance. Certainly, once again, if you're doing the FPS missions, you may know the frustration of unloading an entire magazine into an NPC's head only to have them turn around and one-shot you. An end to that, or at least an improvement of that scenario where it's more skill-based and less like, well, let's see what the server says and we'll be surprised together. I would very much prefer that. But for right now, I think that we're probably getting into a better spot, but I don't want to be overly optimistic. I think that we still have something of a ways to go. But is it going to, in the end, benefit us immediately? Are we going to see like, oh, this is it? We're about to pass into the utopia? No, I don't think so. I think 2021 is probably going to be the year when we really see the benefits. And I think that for the most part in 2020, we're still going to be seeing more of the work and less of the benefits. Now, that's not a negative thing because obviously you got to do the work to get the benefits. But, the ultra euphoric comments of 2020 is going to be Star Citizen's year. I don't think so. I think that really you're going to start to see things really pick up once we've moved through a few cycles of this, staggered development, and once more of these tools aren't just, theoretical or somewhat functional, but really brought to life. That's when we're really going to see things turn around. Anyways, that's my opinion on the Pillar Talk video and the 2020, is it going to be Star Citizen's year? Probably not as great a year as some people are projecting, but I think it's definitely going to be a year that we're going to see some significant improvements, though there are still some areas where, progress has got to be made. And I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.